have all the answers. Judge says, no, all the facts. The judge says, he has all the facts. The judge says, oh, you do? He says, well, how is that you have all the facts? He says, you can ask me anything you want. He says, I'm prepared for traffic court today. Judge says, well, actually, I don't have time for this today. He says, so we're going to continue this for 30 days. He says, in 30 days, you will come back into this courtroom with all the facts, and you will present your argument, as I'll give you a half a day before this court. So the man walks out and he realizes that, and then the judge, before he walks out of the courtroom, says, I want all the facts from all over the world about what you know about your traffic citation. He goes, well, that's a really big order, Your Honor. He says, you said the word all. So you said you have all the facts. I want all the facts or I'm going to arrest you for perjury and you're going to spend 30 days in my jail. So he calls me up and says, Dave, he says, I really stuck my foot in my mouth. What do I do? He says, practice the handstanding. He says, what do you mean practice handstanding? I says, the judge told me to bring all the facts in the court. I says, yeah, practice your handstanding capacity. So he got to be really good. Go run around the house all day long on his hands, doing handstands. Got his balance all tricked up. So he calls me back the day before court and he says, all right, David. He says, I practiced my handstanding. I can do a handstand for 20 minutes, walk all over the place. He says, I'm really good at it. Now you're going to tell me the rest of the story as to why I had to do handstands for 30 days? I says, of course. So then he goes into court, walks up in front of the judge. The judge says, I'm here with all the facts, Your Honor. The judge goes, well, I don't see any paperwork. And he says, you better show me all the facts right now. So he pops a handstand. He says, my feet are dangling in a sea of space and I brought Earth to the courtroom today. I brought all the facts on planet Earth. As my feet are now in a sea of space. After the courtroom got done laughing, the judge says, that was a trick question, and yes, that's a correct answer. You're free to go. You see, sometimes it isn't about syntax or it's about knowing where to look. So everyone in this room has a really unique gift right now. I'll tell you another little story that is relevant to the gift before I answer the question. Man walks up, Ford, president of Ford Motors, Mr. Ford himself, 1952, holds his annual shareholders meeting. And people come from all over the United States for all the Ford dealers. And Mr. Ford is amongst all of his executives, and he's having a conversation. And finally, this young executive walks up, 31 years old, graduate, cocky little guy, and he walks up to Mr. Ford and says, Mr. Ford, I understand you can answer all questions. He says, yes, I can. He says, okay, I got a question for you. So he asked the question in front of all the people there. Give me a phone. I want the answer to this question. You got 15 seconds. Calls his think tank. 15 seconds later comes back and he says, here's the answer to your question. And answers it. He says, is that the correct answer? He says, yes, it is. He says, you can't answer all the questions. He says, you had to call somebody else. He says, is that the right answer? And the man says, yeah, that's the right answer. He says, I know where to look. And that's why I know I can answer your question. By the way, you're fired. For being a wise guy. Okay, what did I say that for? I said that because all of you here now have access to me. So therefore, if somebody presents you with a scenario, an argument, a document, anything, trick question, craziness, no matter what you think it is, say, hey, I got Dave's number. Call Dave. Ask me the question. Make sure you got a tape recorder. I will give you the answer. And you won't have to wait week or so for me to research it. I will give you the answer while you're on the phone immediately. I haven't been defeated in 100,000 questions. at 2,500 seminars. So you guys just cook up your best things. I hope I've answered everyone's questions here today and showed you the necessary points of information that are necessary. Yes?
I got another question. With all these people that know about you and have your phone number from being on the website, all your students all over the world, how can you have time to answer? I think you'd be getting 2,000 calls a minute.
I get 200 emails a day. I hope everybody sends me by email because you can write things out and you get to think about things when you write them out. And so it gives me an opportunity then to answer then when I'm not on the phone, but between the phones and the emails and the lawsuit writing and my day trading and research. I do have a full mental capacity. I don't watch television because that's just, if I'm going to syntax documents or I actually going to sit there and write, I'll watch TV because it gets boring when you're doing numbers at 300 words every half hour. So I watch TV because it's all, my right brain does the work while my left brain is entertained watching. Or if I'm talking to you on a phone, I'll be syntaxing at the same time. But I'm always syntaxing. It's just automatic after 12 years, and I don't even think about it.
My question was, how do you have time to answer all these questions?
I do. I take care of everybody, and I get it all out in record time. Right. People that are doing nonsense don't get through to me. People that are actually legitimate, have a legitimate question for a legitimate reason, and have an emergency do get through to me, and I answer your questions. New people are always going like, you answered your phone. He says, I see how many people you got on your website, the numbers are posted. He goes, how can you possibly get through to me? Well, everybody gets through to me. Since I've been standing here, I've had only 8 phone calls. Kind of disappointed. No emergencies. I know everybody's phone number and what they want to call me about. Where's my form? How do I fill it out? Did I do it right? Same thing, yes.
You got that passion up there, but you didn't show us how that changed it. You showed us what it changed too, but not from what.
Oh, this was a compound noun. All my writings have underline on compound nouns. But when you drop this becomes, anytime you have 2 facts, a claimant is a fact, knowledge is a fact. When you put a fact in front of a fact, this becomes an adjective, making this into a pronoun. Except the is an adverb. The only word that the adverb can attach to would be another adverb, but knowledge of becomes a pronoun because it's been modified by 2 adjectives. The first word in a sentence, the authority always runs backwards. And the word and here is a conjunction. If I put a full colon after this, I would break it, and this would become a real fact now. But without it, this becomes a pronoun. The pronoun has to be connected by an adverb. The adverb has to connect, and all it does are adverbs. Now making this into a verb, but because there's punctuation here, this automatically becomes an independent pronoun. And these are all pronouns, pronoun, and this then becomes an adverb, making court to be an adjective of the word with, which now becomes a pronoun again. It's not a fact, so it's a nothing, because it's been modified. Here's another one for you. We're at the University of Atlanta, Georgia. 3 PhDs in grammar are in the audience. And I'm about 3 hours into the seminar, and I write this little sentence up there. The da is for the da. And they're going like, lady stands up and goes, well, that makes a lot of sense. He says, yeah, but what does it say? Doesn't mean anything to anybody in this room. Why don't we syntax it? Here's a prepositional phrase. Can you put a verb in front of a pronoun? or I mean a preposition. Yes, you can put a verb in front of a preposition. Can you put an adverb in front of a verb? Well, the answer is yes. Can you put an article in front of an adverb? The answer is no. So the only solution here is the adverb modifies the verb, which is connected to the adverb, which modifies the verb, which connected to the adverb, which modifies the verb. So I use the as an adverb and a verb. Or it's a 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 2. That's also correct. Because there's no prepositional phrase in front of for the. And as the word for becomes a pronoun, the is now an adverb, connects and then modifies the adjective is, which modifies the pronoun for, which is connected to the adverb the, which modifies the verb the. Depends on what the volition of the writing is. I'm going to read this out loud. Now, everyone in this room thinks in music. You have music in your brains. You've been brainwashed to understand music. Lawyers write in music. 3, 4, 3, 4, 4, 1, 3, 3, 4, 4, 0, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 3, 3, 4, 1, 3, 3, 4, 1, 3, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 3, 3, 4, 1, 3, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 3, 3, 4, 1, 3, 3, 4, 1, 2. You see a pattern here? You're either doing a two-step, a quick step, a waltz, country two-step, rock and roll. And this is the pattern that the brain goes through. So you write with patterns, you read with patterns. And when you start getting into numbers, you see the patterns. Here the guy is using, there's a quick step, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. A judge would say, this is the way I want it. An attorney who doesn't know what a judge knows is going to go 4, 1, 3, 4, 4, 1, 2. What is my exercise? I use the as a verb. I use the as an adverb. I use the as a pronoun. 3 different syntax identities. You don't believe me? Pull the dictionary out and look up the word the. It's used as an adjective, an adverb, a pronoun, a preposition, an article, and a noun. And if I wanted to do it a different way, I could do a 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. That's also legal. So now I used it as a pronoun, an adjective, an adverb, and a verb. 4 different identities. And all 3 of those are correct. Now, how would I make a determination as to why this is correct? I would look at all the rest of the thinking of the person, the other paragraph around it, and see which one of these patterns have been duplicated before. And that would tell me what his volition was when he wrote this part. If one attorney writes continuously in a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 and hits this pattern, I'm going to say this is his volition. If the next attorney writes this pattern and it's unbroken throughout the document, I'm going to say this belongs to his pattern. This might be Harvard, this might be Yale, this might be Princeton. Each law school teaches different patterns. So you got to know where the music came from. And when you see the music, you know what your thinking capacity is, and you're going to say, oh, Benjamin Franklin wrote this in the Declaration of Independence. But then he went ahead and he helped Thomas Jefferson write the Constitution of the United States of America. But then there was a few other little individuals that got their fingers in the pie. So he wasn't the only guilty party up there. Yes?
Do you recommend sending your kids to college? Did your kids go to college?
Well, we're only talking about English here right now. If you want to study electronics, mechanics, car repair, motor engines, technical schools. Yes, there's nothing wrong. Remember, what is the law of the mafia? You keep your friends close. You keep your enemies closer. Don't forget, who is the enemy? The fiction is the enemy. Smith is going to come after you as Zion. The machine, which is government, is going to try and control you through videotapes, mechanics, automobiles, houses, contracts. So you got two enemies in the world. One is a machine, the other one is a virus. So you have to exist and know who the enemy is. You have to be proficient to understand how the enemy thinks, how the enemy works. But you also have to know what the facts are and how to be proficient in the fact. And by doing so, you can protect yourself and your family and teach it on to other people. You know what the world of syntax pays an hour? It's a $1,000 an hour paycheck. When the world switches gears, they're going to need every document, every topic in the yellow pages rewritten in quantum language. It's a $1,000 an hour paycheck if you can write contracts for what is a refrigeration contract, what is a law contract, what is a real estate contract, what is a bank contract, what is a mortgage contract. How much do you think Bank of America would pay you to write a mortgage contract in quantum grammar compared to the 15-page one of nonsense you now possess? I can take that document and probably, that's 6,000 words. Let's see, 18 and 8, 20, 30, probably about 44 to 46 hours I could have an entire 5,000 word document written in quantum grammar to cover all the topics there, all the scenarios of weather, pesticides, pollution, contracts, and do it in quantum. At which time the banks would then pay a very nice paycheck, because how much money is carried in mortgages in the United States? Anybody know that number? Yes, it's trillions. It's a $60 trillion is carried in mortgage in the United States. So therefore, what would be your paycheck? To just know how to write a 15-page quantum document. For Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank, Chase, Wachovia, J.C. Morgan. Do the math. You got 38 major banks. They're all going to want mortgages. Learn how to do syntax, one contract, you're financially independent. There is no substitute for knowledge. The only security you have in life is your own daily capacity to earn. Earn doesn't mean money. Earn means respect, love, ability to communicate with other people about anything. And as you go through life, you have to continually beat your own record every day. That means you will learn and improve yourself every day and be more than you were the day before. Don't cry about the fact that you're in debt. Don't cry about the fact that you can't pay your bills. I worked 2 full-time jobs since I was 12 years old. I was financially I was emancipated at the age of 12 with a paper route of 147 customers in 1961. I had that for 2 years. I made $47 a week as a 12-year-old. My father made $60 a week to support 6 children. I had to turn over my entire paycheck to support my family, my brothers and sisters. At the age of 14, I worked for Sears and Roebuck at 6% commission. I took home $400 a week as a 14-year-old kid. You're not allowed to work in the state of Wisconsin under the age of 16. I had a work permit from the Milwaukee Journal as a paper boy. Nobody bothered to look at my age. They just saw I had a work permit, so they put me to work. I wasn't allowed to be in the distributive education clubs of America, where you go to school for 4 hours in the morning and you work from 1 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night at Sears and Roebuck until you were 16. I was only 14-year-old in the whole state of Wisconsin. It was going to school in the morning and working at Sears and Roebuck for 2 years. And on my 16th birthday, they threw a birthday party for me, only to discover that, hey, you've been working here for 2 years underage. But you're the best salesman we have, and you make $2,500 a week for the store, so keep your mouth shut. Money talks. So, and then when I joined the Air Force from 68 to 74, worked at A.O. Smith. as a tool and die welder. But as a tool and die welder, I had technology and metallurgy secrets that superseded the government, the company's ability. At school, because of what I learned in metallurgy working for A.O. Smith, which had all kinds of pioneering technology that wasn't made public because it was proprietary copyrights. So when I went to school and studied metallurgy, I had secrets. I even had my own lab at home, so I could experiment with things. But I had mathematics and physics under the belt as well. And when I understood coefficient of expansions of metallurgy, I could cross-reference coefficients. Once all the coefficient formulas were cross-referenced, I then could do grafting. And wherever the dots crossed on the graphs were stable molecules. So then one day, Bud Hahn, who was the senior welding instructor, worked for the nuclear power plants at Point Beach in Wisconsin, and worked on the nuclear reactors as being a state-certified heliarc welder, or TIG welder. And he could do everything X-ray. Makes the statement, you cannot weld aluminum and steel together. I'm going, yes, you can. He says, no, you can't. Never been done. Can't do it. I can do it. He says, that's impossible. He says, I got my own lab. I can do it. I says, I'll bet you your teaching license that I can do it, and I get your teaching permit. I already had 4 years of college under the belt. So he says, I'll take that bet. I'm retiring. I'm 65 years old. So all the welding instructors, metallurgists, engineers at Milwaukee Area Technical College and 150 students were all brought into the weld lab. They set up benches, bleacher benches, so everybody could see. And he gave me a 1/2-inch plate of aluminum and a 1/2-inch plate of steel and a heliarc welder. I set it up for argon and 2% oxygen. Oxygen stabilizes the carbon molecule. And I then preheated the steel to 702 degrees and the aluminum to 702 degrees. And I welded it together and he beat it with a sledgehammer and it wouldn't break apart. He says, there's no application for a 702 degree weld of steel and aluminum together. I says, that's not my contract. My contract is that I can weld steel and aluminum together and you can't break it apart with a sledgehammer. And I can weld it together. That's my contract. And he goes, everyone in the room, that was Mr. Miller's contract. And he welded it, and you beat it with a sledgehammer, and you bent it, and it didn't break. But he maintained 702 degrees Fahrenheit at all times. When he hit 706 or 695, pink, broke apart. Coefficient of expansion, 6.3 versus 12.6. Molecules separated, fell apart. Didn't even have to touch it. But at 702 degrees, the molecules were stable. I knew where to look. And no one else ever, and I got my teaching permit. And I taught college for 3 years full time. During the day, and I worked full time at night at A.O. Smith as a tool and die welder. What I'm point of making here is, if you have knowledge, knowledge is control, and control, you can do what you want. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, if you go through life and you have questions about syntax or about chemistry or about physics or about medicine, just about anything, and you don't know what to do, I have a cure for cancer. I can cure any cancer you have. I don't care who you are. I can cure your arthritis in 48 hours. No problem. High blood pressure, eat an ounce of popcorn every day. There's a little tiny molecule in popcorn that will cure your high blood pressure and your artery problem in 14 days. You'll have 105/70 blood pressure. Yes?
My nephew just got diagnosed with throat cancer.
Throat cancer? 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Atmospheric chamber, 2 atmospheres. That's a barometric chamber used for deep sea divers. Keep you at 32 pounds per square inch air pressure. 28 pounds of air pressure. Stops your blistering at 105 degrees Fahrenheit. IV drip, put the person to sleep. Use sodium pentothal to knock you out for 125 hours at 105 degrees. You will have tubes in, tubes out for waste, nutrients in. You'll wake up in 5 days. The throat cancer will be dead because no cancer can reproduce itself under fever. It's a 100% cure, no side effects. Mayo Clinic, Minnesota does it, so does Atlanta, Georgia, Mayo Clinic. Only 2 procedures. It was discovered in the American Indians have been doing the sweat tent for 400 years curing cancer. Remember, they go into the sweat tent. They hallucinate, see the Great Spirit for 72 hours. You hallucinate at 105 degrees. As long as you're in hallucination, your brain is at 105 degrees and so is your body. Because it's in a steam environment of hot rocks with steam, you don't dehydrate. You're inhaling enough water to replenish your sweating. And you drink fluids, but the